The Neil Haley Show and the GildaGram Podcast with our host, Dr. Gilda Carle. Dr. Gilda, how are you? And we have an amazing guest today, talented, but giving you a different point of view. And I'm excited about this, meaning as a young person. I'd love to get this perspective.
When I was interviewing your dad, he mentioned my son, my 23-year-old son, is really terrific. And he says the same things that I do. And he's on the same side of the political spectrum that I am. And I was interested in this because you're Gen Z. And Gen Zs have a particular reputation of being no-show, not caring all that much, not exactly putting in a lot of effort, and dropping out. You probably could fill in all the blanks for that and tell me even more about the reputation that your friends have. But I want to hear it from you. You're not typical Gen Z. You are an actor, you are a writer, and you're a mouthpiece. And you get out there. I saw some things that you had said that, I couldn't believe a young person. Young people always want to fit in. A young person would have the moxie to say these things and get called racist, sexist, and all the other is that they have called you. What's behind all this, Braeden?
It is, for one, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. But two, it really is almost a revival, if you will, with the Gen Z movement. You mentioned a lot of Gen Zers are dropping out. They're leaving, abandoning, or not even showing up altogether. And there's this revival with my generation in the sense that we want to be involved, but we feel alienated. There's a disenfranchisement happening with the young people right now. And so a lot of people have taken the mindset of, what's the point? I'm just going to give up and bow out. And another large portion of us have decided to rather start stepping in. And so you see that there's a lot of young up-and-coming voices within the Gen Z movement that are trying to make themselves heard. Because what we have to realize is Generation Z will be taking over the country, whether people admit it or not, whether they realize it or not. Every generation will eventually get its time to shine. And Gen Z is really reaching that precipice. It is our turn. And so we better start listening to them, because otherwise we're going to be left in the dark, which is why I wrote my books, which is why I am so fervent in my desire to speak out, because I don't want to be one of the people who's left behind. And I know that you and your viewers probably don't as well. And so in trying to reach Gen Z, what we have to realize is most of them are just looking to be heard. As with the case with most people in anywhere you look at, any relationship, if you will, and most people aren't necessarily looking for a solution when they go talk about their problems. They're just looking to be heard. Gen Z is at the same time looking for a solution as they are looking to be heard. And so we're witnessing this revival in real time that I've written articles about, where people are returning to Christianity. They're coming back to Christendom, where they're returning to advocacy and this idea that American excellence really is something that people should be proud of rather than ashamed of. And so you have this spirit of patriotism, of nationalism, of securing our country to solidify its life. You notice that we're at the breaking point where most countries fail, and they end up falling and never recovering when it comes to moral degradation, sexual degeneracy, whatever, fill the blank you want there. Every other great nation in the history of the world has collapsed. And our generation, my generation, is looking at that and going, I don't want America to be part of that trend. I don't want America to fall victim to the things that caused every other great nation to collapse. And so when I mention this revival, that is the purpose. We don't want America to fail. And so I wrote the book, Embrace Masculinity, Lifting Men Up in a World That...
This guy, he does exactly what I do. He picks up his book. I was just going to talk about that book, Embrace Masculinity. That is so important. And of course, that's the message behind Real Men Don't Go Whoa. This book that I have been talking about, when I sent his father, Neil, I sent his father a copy of this book because his father is all throughout the book. And there were like 7 tabs attached to the book where his father is mentioned. So I love the message that your father has given, but I didn't even know that Kevin Sorbo had a son. I didn't even know. I didn't do that kind of research enough to know. And I am just thrilled to hear this out of the mouth of this babe. I'm just thrilled about this. You talk about how other kids your age are navigating. How do you know them? How do you get to meet them? You grew up in Hollywood, didn't you?
Yeah, I was raised in California. I was homeschooled, which helped me grow up on sets behind the camera. So I definitely got to spend a lot of time in my adolescence, if you will, learning the ins and outs of the movie industry. And I fell in love with it myself. To date, I've been blessed to do 11 feature films as well. Now, I've loved that. And at the same time, I also witnessed the decline and the moral degradation. And so I watched my dad go from the Hollywood industry to the independent film industry, when the content switched from Hollywood blockbuster to things like God's Not Dead and Soul Surfer. And so it's a great movie. I was privy to learn both sides of the sphere, if you will. And I was, I guess, lucky enough to understand the differences between the two, to the point where I realized Hollywood wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to be part of because of what they promote. And essentially, the whole idea of how the industry works was not something that my morals lined up with. And so I did grow up on the Hollywood track, if you will, but I'm grateful for the ability to have seen both sides and now be able to choose.
What's interesting to me also, in looking at your background, you have a mother who is amazing. What, does she speak 5 languages?
Yes, she's 5 languages fluently and a bunch of others. She's very scary. I love her, but she's very scary. I would not want to go against her. This is important to note. She was my teacher. So I've learned my lesson.
She was a homeschool teacher, and she's also an actress, isn't she?
Yes, that's how my parents met.
Anya, it's amazing. It's just amazing because that whole world out there, and I have been out there because I am in this industry on the periphery, but I have been in this industry for a while, and I see what's happening there, and the lack of depth to speak about your mind and about what is really in your heart. That cannot happen out there because you have to be part of the mold. How come they didn't grab you to become one of...
Oh man, I'm far too outspoken for them. That's just... I was not willing to repeat the vain talking points, just these vapid, nonsensical statements.
Yes, I love it.
So what I'm listening to you is that when you grew up in Hollywood, did you get the opportunity to interact with other actors, kids, and try to really make the right decisions? A lot of child actors deal with the challenges and all those things.
Yeah, I definitely met a lot of celebrity children, and as a lot of people online would say, Nepo babies. And there was a school near us which ranks in the top 5 for high school football every single year. And that was essentially the private, I say Christian, but I put it in quotes, Christian academy that all those kids went to. And I was, as much as I was homeschooled, I was always a social butterfly. And so I was invited to all of the parties. I witnessed everything that happened. It was one of those things where you go and it's, wow, this is going to be a cool, sneaky party. Everyone's going to break the rules and all that stuff. And then the parents are supplying the alcohol and all these things. And you're 16 years old going, oh, this is a little bit of a letdown. At least that was my perspective on it. And so I ended up gaining popularity as the kid who didn't drink and the kid who didn't smoke or do those things because it didn't make sense to me. And my ego loved it. As everyone in Hollywood will tell you, they have an ego. I do as well. And so my ego prevented me from doing that, but I was definitely around it. I got to see a lot of it and that side of the industry.
What school was that, by the way?
Oaks Christian.
Okay. I heard of another big California one where Owen Yeoman kids went and stuff that's out there around there that has a really good football team. So I was just wondering what's going on.
Did you ever feel pressure from any kids to join them rather than stay independent on your own?
Yeah, it's peer pressure. That's just a normal thing. And this is normal. I want to say this isn't like me trying to claim this mighty righteous status of I'm perfect, because obviously everyone knows not everyone's perfect, or nobody is, frankly. There was only one perfect person and we crucified him. So I don't say it in the sense of a better than thou statement, but rather just I understand that the struggles some people went through, and I speak from the sense that I was able to witness it, and so I know what it was like, but not necessarily partake in certain things.
You have been called a political provocateur.
Thank you.
About that.
I love it. The thing is, I've been called every name in the book but wrong. And so that is a sign for me to keep going, right? The words that are thrown at me on a daily basis are everything other than liar. Why wouldn't I keep, I could take the easy road. It would be so easy for me to sit online and post shirtless videos and just collect check and not say anything of really any significance. But eventually that would run out. And granted, this is not necessarily a mentally uplifting thing with the road that I've taken with politics. It's a very dark sphere, but I look at it from the sense of somebody is going to have to do it, and why not?
I congratulate you. I honor you for being able to demonstrate your spine and stand tall amid all the pressures around you. Now, what about the young women around you? Because we know, and I have done all of this research, because a PhD, what do? We research like crazy. And I have done all this research, and we understand that women who are Gen Z are usually moving to the left more than the men are. Men are either staying where they are or moving to the right. And that creates a lot of issues. I give advice for a living, relationship advice, relationship strategies, and business strategies. And I am always asked, where are the guys? I can't find guys. If women are going to cut them down and put them down and castrate them and cancel them, how are they going to find men? And yet they don't understand this. They want, but they don't want. It's, yeah, go away, yet come here. And it's confusing everybody, including the young women who have been found to be mentally ill more often than the men are of that age. Would you comment on that?
Yeah, you probably know a lot of the statistics I'm about to lay out, but 75% or about 3/4 of women between the ages of 18 and 65 are on an antidepressant or some sort of pharmaceutical medication. 48% of men in that same age range are roughly on some sort of antidepressant or medication. So we have an over-medicated society, which is obviously not going to be helping in the long term. We have the largest political divide between the genders that we've ever had. Statistically speaking, men have always leaned a little bit more to the right. Women have always leaned a little bit more to the left. But in terms of this past election and the polls that we're showing, men went farther right than ever before and women went farther left than ever before. Gen Z is actually the farthest conservative leaning generation in the history of the world ever. More than the founding fathers, more than the generation that fought World War II, more than the generation that fought World War I. Gen Z is really pushing to the right, which is a good thing inherently. Now, what we notice is when polling the generation, when I mentioned the divide, young men in 2024 listed the top reasons for concern or the biggest issues for voting being border security, protecting the country, economic stability, and then the security of the nation, which ties into the first 2 points pretty well. Those were the top three things. And then you get into a little bit more of the kind of the same-sex marriage or whatever. You get a little bit more to the weeds of the morality things. But first and foremost with young men was border security and economic stability. Young women, the number one issue for them was abortion, 67%. So 67% of young women who were polled said abortion was the biggest issue for them in this past election, which means 67% of young women were thinking selfishly in the sense that whoever's going to let me kill the baby in my womb is who I'm going to vote for. Selfish. Young men chose border security and economic stability. Selfless, protecting the country, the betterment of the whole. So that is obviously not sustainable. We know that. And so the young women, I'll say that I've been lucky enough to be around, and I've been around plenty of women who hate me, right? That's obviously, that's not going to
territory.
It comes with the territory of being in politics. But
Unless
I've also noticed
find a woman who's about 40 or 50 years old, which you're not about to do.
No, and so a lot of my generation, in terms of the women, are either hyper promiscuous, and that's not something that I'm interested in.
And they're using abortion as a birth control.
And they use abortion as a birth control. And you, with a PhD, would know for sure that hyper promiscuity in both men and women is detrimental to your psyche. It actually destroys your ability to pair bond with a person the more partners you have. And so that's very dangerous and not something that I would want to settle with. Two, young women who are not, if they're not hyper promiscuous, they are posting things online. There's studies that show 45% of men aged 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in real life. So you're talking about where all the good women aren't getting approached by guys. Yes, they've shunned men into stepping back and not approaching them because you talk to a girl at the gym or you look at a girl at the gym and you're a pervert and a creep who gets blasted in front of half
Sexual harassment
on social media. She wears the clothes because it makes her feel good, not for your gratification, but she'll post them online for the appreciation of others and the validation that she gets. That's not empowerment. What we've done is we've taken a generation of people and we've conditioned them into believing that societal validation triumphs every other form of self-appreciation. And so you tell people that their inherent value comes from the sexual pleasure that they're able to give others, but that their sexuality is theirs alone, and anyone who dares to treat it incorrectly, whether that be something as dangerous as sexual harassment or as innocent as looking at the wrong time, place, or location, that person's life now has a chance to be ruined. And so men are not approaching these women. There are surveys that are saying 85% of men, at least surveyed, are admitting to watching porn once a month. If we put that on a larger scale and maybe drop the percentage because some people are more honest than others, we could say 80%, which is still 4 out of 5 guys admitting to watching pornography once a month.
It's in my book.
Why? It's in my book. Why would a young man risk rejection and social public humiliation when he can go online to the girl who will never reject him?
Exactly. And that's why men, grown-up men, will go and procure a prostitute or an escort so that they don't have any strings attached to that interaction.
Yeah.
And there is no...
Wait to the robot women.
Then there's the robots. I mentioned
Now
the
they're already
robots.
saying about relationships in AI. They say of the top for voice AI, the second one is dating. I don't know if you heard this.
People are dating their AIs right now.
Yeah.
There is an entire thread on Reddit of women who are with an AI. It's called My AI Boyfriend or something. And women will literally post talking about getting engaged to an AI robot.
Excited woman gets engaged to AI fiance after 5 and insists she is fully aware of what she's doing. This just came out today, but there are so many studies about this that I have quoted in Real Men Don't Go Woke. It is not the way to go. And there are so many, there were 10 that I listed in my book about how men drop out of intimacy so they won't be insulted, they won't feel bad about themselves. But you know, when we're talking about sexuality and being accepted and not being abandoned and all of those issues that normal people would ordinarily have, all of that is trying to get control over somebody rather than control within yourself. And I'm sorry, but our schools, our institutions have never trained people in how to take care of themselves. And that's why we see all of this sickness around us.
Yeah, and it goes back to the feminist movement. We have commercialized sexuality. And so what we've done is we've told young women that I call corporate jobs daycare for young women, because what they do is they promise that the young women can get married later and have their kids later. They'll freeze embryos if they need to. They'll freeze the eggs. But what happens is they use the most fertile years of a young woman's life when she is at her best stage to have children, to nurture and raise a family. And they take that and they suck that life out of you and then they spit you out. And by the time the woman is 30, 35, 40 years old, she's going, where's all the good men? All the good men found the other good women and they settled down. All that's left is to pick the scraps. But what we realize is that those women don't want those scraps. They always think that they deserve better. I saw a video this morning of a girl saying that she won't settle for a man who is less than 6'2", who makes less than $150,000 a year and has growth. And that person is less than 0.1%. 0.1%. That person doesn't exist. And he certainly wouldn't settle for you. People don't understand that because what we've done is we've commercialized sexuality.
Oh my God.
So I want to question, I wanted to jump on, is that the Andrew Tate syndrome in a certain way as well, but reversed in certain, meaning like how the Tate brothers talk about specific things when it comes to women and how they're acting and how you have to be this certain kind of man or you can't get a woman, and someone you follow that? Go ahead.
You certainly have to be the right type of man to attract the right type of woman. It's impossible to set a standard for someone else that you yourself don't meet, right? So if I'm sitting here going, I want a wife who does this, that, and the other thing, then I better be doing the things that mirror that, the things that amplify that, the things that glorify that. That it is a hand-in-hand partnership. A lot of people...
You know this. And I've been teaching this to adults, and it's going in one ear and out into the garbage. I mean,
because people are, by and large, without saying a bad word, mentally handicapped, is what I've realized. Most people do not have an IQ above room temperature.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, and with AI, what are they going to do if most people don't have that IQ?
No, we're already setting up.
We want who we are. So that's where I get back to the control issue. You have to control yourself and manufacture a self that is faithful and good and loyal and kind and all of those things that a lot of these very selfish feminists refuse to even admit to needing.
Yes.
They will.
That's the difference between the genders, is people don't realize that we all have a different intrinsic role. And so going back to what you were saying, Neil, about the Andrew Tate system thing, is yes and no, in the sense that yes, men and women are intrinsically different and there are certain things that men should be doing and certain things that women should be doing, but no, in the sense that it currently lacks a Christian moral foundation. And so the problem is, without a Christian moral foundation as the bulwark, the framework of our society, it doesn't really matter what they say. No one can say that they're better or worse than Andrew and Tristan Tate. You can't condemn what they're saying or doing, because if we don't have a moral foundation, if we don't have an objective stance that we can pin on ourselves, if everything is subjective, then it doesn't really matter and what they're saying is correct. And to a degree, it is, right? Their stance is void of Christianity. But with that in mind, yes, it is correct. When a stance doesn't have a moral objective foundation, whatever happens is correct. And so, yes, men without the guidelines of Christianity are domineering, they're oppressive, they're controlling, they can be manipulative, they can be abrasive, they can be whatever you want to call them, because they lack that moral objective foundation. And so if you give them that cornerstone, if you start something for them to build on, what happens is true masculinity takes over. It becomes providing, it becomes protecting, it becomes responsible for the person. And so women marry for stability. Men marry for respect. Men marry for the idea of being able to procure the next generation. They want to prolong their livelihood, and their livelihood is their last. Because when I die, it doesn't matter what car I drive. It doesn't matter how many bedrooms my house has. It doesn't matter how big my bank account is. My children carry on my legacy. I marry for that. I marry a woman who respects me as the head of the household and who will bear my children through that, show me the respect that I so desperately need. I don't need love in the same way that a woman needs love. And that's the problem with society, is we're trying to say that men and women are the same.
That I would call that love. I would call that love. Respect and love go hand in hand. And I think that's very important to understand. But I've done all these talk shows, but that's been my career. And I was on a talk show, and there was this very overweight white woman with terrible skin, indicating she was not healthy. She had 5 kids out of wedlock with different men. And I said to her, confronted her, I said, what are you going to do with your life? And she looked at me dead seriously. She said, I'll just marry her. And I couldn't let that go. We're on national television. I said, what rich man will want to marry you? What will you offer? And she was just blank. And I hope everybody in America heard that, because everybody's got to give as well as take. It's not gimme, gimme, gimme. It's what can I do for you, as well as what's in it for me. But before you say what's in it for me, I want to see what you're giving. Okay.
No, they don't understand that relationships are give and take because we've conditioned them. It's one of the greatest tricks society played on women, was telling them to compete with men, that they were just the same as men and should be treated the same. You can't.
We're not.
It's impossible. No.
We're not.
You're not.
And frankly, the mentally healthy, emotionally healthy women don't even want to.
No, they don't, which is why you have a large portion of Gen Z women who are going, I would rather lose the right to vote and live on a farm baking sourdough bread every day, raising my kids, than deal with this corporate oligarchical crap system that we have now. This isn't fun to live in. And I second that. Man, if I was a woman, I would love to just sit at home and not be forced to go work in an office every single day. Submit to a husband over a boss that doesn't care about me? Yes.
And here's the thing. You will be ostracized by a lot of people, and that goes on TikTok, Oh my.
Fine with me. I'm right.
I understand that. Oh my. As a journalist, I'm playing the side of just giving you the points of what I'm seeing. But you're so right but I wouldn't know this is happening with Gen Z. And now I'm going to even throw things out even further that's going to really open up a can of worms. Is that why older men are dating younger women now?
Yeah. If you are a successful 40-year-old man, you have options. The thing is, there's an analogy, the mountain. Men and women are born on a mountain. Men are born at the base of the mountain, and women are born at the peak of the mountain. And the way that this works is the peak, the summit, is the desire. When you reach the top, that is where you are wanted. Women are inherently wanted in society. That is why if an ugly guy walks into a bar and says, who wants to have sex with me? He'll get kicked out and slapped with a sexual harassment clause. But if a woman does it, even if she is unattractive, overweight, and has 5 kids, some people will raise their hand, right? Because men and women have different value sets. We're the same intrinsically in the sense that we're created in the image of God, and we have that innate value from the moment of our conception. We are different in what our output is in society, because that is what the chromosomes do to us, right? I am physically stronger than my little sister. I'm going to beat my sister one-on-one in basketball every single time, no competition. My sister has much better talents than I do when it comes to nurturing, tender care, love, those kinds of things. She outdoes me in certain aspects. And so men are born at the base of the mountain. They spend their entire lives trying to summit the peak, climbing. Women are born at the peak. The challenge for them is to remain there. The peak is purity. The peak is righteousness. The peak is all of these godly, virtuous traits that they're given. That is the peak for women. For men, the peak is the success to sustain, provide, and protect for a family. But you can't do that starting at the base. You have to climb.
But the problem with many women is that we as a gender are so inclined to listen to what Mary is telling us and Alice is telling us and our neighbors are telling us so that we can be just like them, that we will peak as they try to pull us down. Women are not nice to each other in many cases and pull us down when we have risen to that peak.
Yes, I've always said that a woman's biggest hater is other women. I know a friend of mine got engaged a week ago. She posted a photo just saying, I won, with her hand in the ring. And you would expect all of the other traditional Christian women online to be celebrating her, but no, they went and started viciously attacking the ring size, calling them husbands, and everyone's sitting here going, shouldn't you be happy? Isn't this what you promote online? Isn't your whole idea to get married, have babies? What an odd thing to say.
I just couldn't believe how mean, and I wrote an op-ed about this that was recently published, how mean women have become as men have become withdrawn and silent and suicidal. And I am concerned about that for what is going to happen for our progeny.
I am as well, because society does not care for the men. They do not value men by and large. And so when things like this ramp up in society, whether that be depression rates, suicide rates, and things of that nature, society doesn't care. It only perpetuates the cycle. And we end up destroying ourselves from within, which is why I say my generation wants to change this country, but we have to be heard first.
Your generation has maybe this many people in it right now who are feeling the way you do. A lot of the men have given up based upon what I'm getting from the chatter on TikTok and Instagram. Guys are saying, I don't care. I am going to raise my son not to get married, not to have children, not to be involved with any women because of the evilness of what they have seen around them. They get married, they get divorced, they can't afford to have a second family. It goes on and on because so much in the culture is stacked against men. And this is my now mission to get everything changed. I'm a spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys. And I'm out there screaming and yelling about this. I'm getting thanks from Paris. I'm getting thanks from men. I want men to be out there speaking about what is in their hearts, speaking the way you're speaking.
I would love more men to get involved as well. That's why I wrote the book right there. There we go.
There you go. See, that was why you wrote the book.
Did it
so
again.
What do you hope men are going to get most out of your book? What's your hope?
A guide, a handbook, a tool to use to navigate this world that is constantly trying to press them down. And at the same time, for women, a discernment tool, right? Something that they could use to discern if the people that they're surrounding themselves with are virtuous.
We attract not who we want, but who we are. That's my GildaGram. What can I do to help you on your mission?
You and anyone else watching can simply help amplify voices like mine. There are a lot of more people in my generation who are starting to speak up, who have been who have been silenced for years. And so helping us breach those front lines is really the best way to support.
I love it. I love it. So anything else to add, Dr. Gilda, to this conversation?
No.
We could go on for a long time.
I know we could be on the air.
These clips, and we're definitely going to have to tag the Tate brothers. And have you ever had those back and forths with the Tates or anything? Are you do you want to get into that social media where you're going viral and hoping that you can be a different voice for men?
I would absolutely love it. In fact, actually, they ended up endorsing the book. So they're one of the people who believe in the message of bringing young men back to a virtuous lifestyle. And so both Andrew and Tristan, to my knowledge, have started looking into Christianity, which would be quite an amazing revival.
Oh my goodness. You heard it first here on the Neil Haley Show.
I love it. So they endorse your books, Andrew and Tristan?
Yes.
Okay. And you've noticed that they're different than it was before their development if you look at the content.
Yes, 100%.
And I think the one thing that if you look and listen to certain things, it really speaks to you. Stay focused. Don't allow a woman that you've lost to get focused, get your laptop out and work. That's one of the things I think that you're hoping to see is more men working harder and putting in their day's work.
How about more men speaking out?
True.
I'm very concerned about how silent they have been. They're afraid of being canceled and fired. And look, your father was ruined in Hollywood. They kicked him out as quickly as they could. And he knows how to stand and land on his feet.
Exactly.
I think he is a model for how to deal with the crazies out there.
All right.
Thank you.
Braeden, best place we can connect with you. Where's the best place?
Everyone go follow my X account at Braeden Sorbo, BraedenSorbo. I'm trying to grow that the most, but any and all social medias are under the same moniker.
All right. And you're going to run in politics. So that's a goal, right?
Oh man,
Maybe. I mean, that's going to change the whole game plan, right?
It would, yes.
Okay. Awesome. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed this.
All right. And go to drgilda.com for information on Dr. Gilda. That was the special simulcast Neil Haley Show and the GildaGram Podcast, guys. Take care.